right, so question now is, how does the Senate GOP plan to stop inflation or recession and the failing Biden economy? If the cavalry comes, what's they going to do? Joining us to talk about it, Senator John Thune of South Dakota, Senate Minority Whip. Mr. Thune, we welcome you back, as always, sir. I mean, I had on the show the other night Elise Stefanik, part of the House leadership. I asked her the same question, so you're in the leadership in the Senate. If the cavalry comes, and the numbers are looking awfully good lately, what is the plan to stop inflation, end the recession, and get the economy back on track? Easy question. Very easy question.
Nice to be with you as always, Larry.
Thank you.
You are correct. Hopefully there are going to be some reinforcements coming in a few weeks here. And if we get the majorities, hopefully for sure in the House, but if we can get it in the Senate, and we have both the House and the Senate, we'll have certainly a lot more leverage to try and contain and rein in this out-of-control, extreme, radical agenda that the Biden administration and their leadership in Congress has put forward. But I think it starts with reducing the wasteful spending. And as Brian, your previous guest, pointed out, the Congress does have the power of the purse. So you can, through appropriations, at least prevent them from spending more money, like the two huge boondoggle spending bills that they put through in the last couple of years. And then I think you have to also focus on an energy policy. Obviously, what drives a lot of inflation is the cost of energy, and that's gone up dramatically. Not only gasoline, but utility fuel was up, or utility gas was up 33% year over year, according to this recent CPI report. So I think it's having an energy plan and leveraging, pressuring the administration to work with us on that. And then we also control the confirmation process in the Senate, which is why the Senate's so important, because there are 1,200 executive branch nominees, as you know, that have to come through the Senate for confirmation. Right now, they have unified control of government. They have the House, the Senate, and the White House. They can get anybody confirmed that they want if they can get all the Democrat votes in the Senate. If there's a Republican majority in the Senate, they have to come to us and consult with us, and that gives us a chance to stop some of the crazy.
I mean, that's an interesting point. Well, a couple points, but I think one of the campaign themes with respect to fighting inflation is to put a check on the three Democratic House progressive, whatever, big government socialist plan. I mean, putting a check on that and restoring some balance is probably very effective. But Senator Thune, let me go back. You kind of have to pin the tail on the donkey. So inflation's problem number one. That is a Biden problem. It's a Democrat problem. Would that give you the leverage, given the fact that the inflation is going to continue to rage for a bunch more months, I think, wouldn't that give you some leverage to do what you're suggesting? Let's talk about federal spending, leave the Federal Reserve alone. Wouldn't that give you some leverage? Biden might want to stop it, but I think the country would be on your side. Cut back on federal spending, and that's the way to get at inflation?
I think so, Larry. And, he's going to argue, and he will. He'll have a veto pen for sure. But we will write spending bills. They won't be able to push through, just bloated reconciliation bill like they did on a party line basis, because we will control the agenda in the Senate. So it is a critical check and balance against all that spending and growth of government. They've done a lot of damage. I mean, in 2 years, they have done a ton of damage. If you look at just the size and growth and the size and scale of government, its reach into our lives, the tax increases, you look at the disaster at the border. These are, long-term problems now that we're going to have to come in and try and fix. We've got a mess to clean up. But that check and balance is a critical argument, I think, and I think the American people understand that the Democrats have control of all of government. And what has that gotten you? It's gotten you 40-year high inflation. It's gotten you the worst border crisis in history. It's gotten record energy prices. And you can go right down the list. These are not outcomes, I think, or results the American people want to see continue into the future, which means they're going to need a check and balance. And I think that's where the Republicans in the House and the Senate can come in. And hopefully, again, if we do things right and execute over the next 3 weeks, we will get those majorities that I think are so critical to America's future.
Senator, it's just, as listening to you talk about this, when Biden often says when he came in, there was a recession and we had, no COVID vaccines and whatnot. But there was no crisis when he was inaugurated. The economy was in very good shape. If you all take power January 3rd or whatever the date is, you will have a crisis, and the country will know you have a crisis. And I think that crisis atmosphere, if you hit the ground running, You know, you talk about the budget, you talk about, I think the individual appropriation bills are so very important in this battle. You will have a crisis atmosphere if you put it to work, but this time you can put it to work accurately and productively.
Right, to try and limit the size and growth of government.
Right.
And I think one thing we would take aim at right away is these 87,000 new IRS employees. I mean, think about that, doubling literally the size of the IRS budget, or the size of the agency, I should say, and increasing their budget. It's a six-fold increase over their regular annual appropriations. And you know, some of the things that they've done that have just made things way worse, Larry, some of it done by executive action. The loan forgiveness, student loan forgiveness, another $500 billion added to the debt, basically, paid by people who don't have student loans, and 13% of the people in this country who do. This is an administration that just has no boundaries when it comes to spending money, growing and expanding government. And there is a price to be paid, and it is a mess, and it will be a crisis. And I think that's an argument that we can make when we get in, if we do, that we've got to clean this mess up. And it starts with, you know, getting this out of control spending back under control. And at least on the fiscal side, the things that we control, you mentioned the Fed. Obviously, they've got monetary policy under their jurisdiction, and we have oversight powers.
Yep.
And you know, with these agencies and this confirmation process that I mentioned in the Senate, there are checks and balances. There is leverage that we can use, and we intend to use all of it to try and rein in and get this you know, runaway left-wing radical extreme agenda that they have put forward back under control and get it kind of back on the rails. That's the goal.
Yeah, the progressive paradise, Senator Thune, didn't quite work out, but never does it? Anyway, we'll leave it there.
It never does.
Thank you, Senator John Thune. We appreciate it very much.